All right, so today we are going to recap and review graphing, slope, slope-intercept form. Graphing, slope, and slope-intercept form. So, to help you out with regards to taking notes, I will be using a highlighter to highlight for you what you definitely need to have in your notes. So anytime you see me highlight something, that's something that I will definitely be checking for in your notes. So this first page, part A, I'm not checking for. This is more so review for your own information, but I'm not going to check for it in your notes. So this part is simply listening and asking questions if you're stuck on something. So, basic things for graphing. So when you're plotting points on a graph, you always start at the origin. Always start in the middle. First number tells you whether you're moving left or right. Move to the right if it's positive. Move to the left if the number is negative. Don't move if it's 0. The second number, the y-coordinate, move up if it's positive. Move down if it's negative. Don't move if it's 0. As far as where everything is located, you have the x-axis, you have the y-axis, and then quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if it asks you to identify where it's located, there's only 6 possible answers. 1, 2, 3, 4, x-axis, or y-axis. Any questions on that before we continue? If you have a question, please make sure you ask. All right. So these examples for graphing, they're already done for you, so you do not have to copy them. Those of you who printed out the worksheet, it's already there for you. But, for example, if you plot the point 3, 7, start at 0, 0, move 3 units to the right, and then 7 units up. What's your point? So I labeled it point A. Point A is in quadrant number 1. We'll do one more. So 5, -6. Start at 0, 0. Start at 0, 0. Go 5 units to the right. And then 6 units down. And that point rests on quadrant number 4. So again, that's a review of graph. Any questions on part A? Nope, you did not have to copy down part A. You'll see my highlighter come out when it's notes that you need to make sure you have. That's correct. Remember what I said at the beginning, if you see my highlighter come out, these are notes that you need to make sure you have. That, ladies and gentlemen, if you're uncertain, you can come off of mute and ask a question. Just because you're in e-learning doesn't mean you stop doing the things that you do as a student. If you was in school, you would have raised your hand and asked a question. Either come off of mute or type it in the chat. I can't force you to do it. You got to do it for yourself. Y'all are not babies. Y'all got to speak up for yourself. That grown man, grown woman stuff now. So let's go to part B. Now I'll bring my highlighter out. So for part B, we're talking about definition stuff. So there's definitely going to be things that should be in your notes now. So part B, slope and rate of change. So I highlighted the title, so that means you should have the title. So the slope of the line is the steepness of a line, also known as rate of change. So we did slope before in the first semester. Everyone in this class was here in the first semester. So we did this before. There are 4 types of slope: positive, negative, zero, and undefined. Positive, negative, zero, and undefined. So positive slope means that the line is rising. It's pointing up. Negative slope means that the line is falling, pointing down. Zero slope means that the line is horizontal. Undefined slope means that the slope is vertical. So I saw this on one worksheet. I think this was a worksheet that Willie had sent in. Undefined is also the same thing as no slope. So putting no slope is fine. Undefined and no slope mean the same thing. So you can write either or. Any questions on the 4 types? All right, not seeing you're hearing anything, so let's go ahead and keep going. I know Naomi, Landon, and Sam are over there taking notes so that you get these 20 points. Let's start with finding the slope from a graph. Start with finding the slope from a graph. So I'm going to look for that actual formula, and we're going to do examples 1 and 2. So remember, if you see me highlighting something, that means that's something I'm going to look for when I check your notes. All right, so if you are given a graph and you have to find the slope. So for example 1, you have 2 points on the graph. Start from the lowest point. Count the number of units you have to move up to get to the other point. So if I start from the lowest point, how many spaces do I have to count up? 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. Now we count the number of spaces that you got to move over. How many spaces did I have to run? 2. So now we can give our answer. Your slope is rise divided by run. Your rise was 3, and your run was 2. 3 over 2. That's it. Run's over. So a couple things to keep in mind when you're moving on a graph. When you're moving on a graph, if you're moving up, that's a positive movement. If you're moving down, that's a negative movement. If you're moving to the right, that's a positive movement. If you're moving to the left, it's a negative movement. So let's do example 2. I'm going to scroll up a little bit just so that those people who are already ready to go for examples 3 and 4 can do that. Those count as notes. So, example 2. For example 2, I have my 2 points. Do I have to rise for this problem? Do you have to rise for this problem? No, you're not going up or down. So there's no rise for this problem. So if you pick a point, how far do I have to move? 1 time. To go from one space to the other, 1 time. You're going to have to wait, Austin. I'll come back to that in a second. So your slope is rise over run. So your rise is 0. You didn't have to rise. And your run is 1. What's 0 divided by 1? That's 0. 0 divided by 1 is 0. There you go, Austin. Any questions, examples, 1 or 2? If you have a question, you gotta make sure you ask, because closed mouths don't get fed. All right, Austin. All right. So examples 3 and 4. After 3 and 4, we'll take a short one. So I've already highlighted the parts that, again, need to be in your notes. So if I just give you 2 points, first thing is to label your points. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. So example 3, your line passes through 12, -5. So 12 is the X1, -5 is the Y1, and 8, 1. 8 is the X2, and 1 is the Y2. So if you don't need to label it, then that's fine. You don't need to label it. Just make sure that you put everything in the right place. Just make sure you put everything in the right place. But now let's do some work with it. We have the slope formula. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So Y2 is 1, and so Y1 is -5. So 1 minus -5 over 8 minus 12. Problem is set up. Now we solve it out. What's 1 minus -5? One minus -5 gives you 6. So what's 8 minus 12? -4. So we have 6 over -4. Can I do anything with that? Reduce it. So 6 over -4 reduces to what? Beautiful. 3 over -2. Both of those numbers are divisible by 2. So what we just did is an example of what's called showing your work. Any questions before we go to example 4? All right, not seeing any, not hearing any. Let's go to example 4, and you'll get a quick 2-minute break. So example 4, you do the exact same thing. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. So, what do I put at the top of the fraction? Nine minus 4, excellent. And what goes at the bottom of the fraction? That sounds beautiful. All right, let's do that work. 9 minus 4 is? Nine minus 4 is 5, and -7 minus -7. That's 0. Anytime you take a number minus itself, it's 0. What's 5 divided by 0? Can you divide by 0? No. That means there's two words that you can use. There's no slope, or what's that other word that begins with the U? Undefined. So, just a hint for those of you who get confused with this, if the 0 is at the top of the fraction, that's when the answer is 0. If the 0 is at the bottom of the fraction, that's when it's undefined. So if you know something that's something that gets you confused, there's the guide to help you out. Any questions before we take a short break? By short, I mean 2 minutes. All right, so for those of you who need to get caught up on notes, you got that time. Otherwise, stand up, stretch, do what you need to do. We will go to graphing in 2 minutes. All right, so hopefully you took advantage of the break, take care of whatever needs you need to take care of. So the last thing we're going to take care of today is graphing a linear function. So bring my highlighter out. So that way you at least know what we're looking at and what we're working with. So, we first are going to start with graphing a vertical and a horizontal line. These are the two basic types of graphs. So, for a vertical line is x equals whatever number they give you. X equals whatever number they give you. And a vertical line are lines that go up and down. So, for example 5, x equals -2. Go to the x-axis. Go to where -2 would be located. Put a dot on that line. And then draw a vertical line. That's it. Graph's done. Problem's over. Graph's done. Problem's over. That's a vertical line. Now let's do a horizontal line. A horizontal line is y equals a number. So, why do you think I would leave this part blank? I put a grid over there. Why do you think I would leave this blank? Because I'm going to show you how to make the graph if you can't print it and if you don't have any graph paper. You don't get to use the excuse of, Mr. Lowe, I ain't got no graph paper. Mr. Lowe, I can't do the graph because I ain't got no graph paper. Yeah, miss me with that. So this is how we draw a graph. Draw a horizontal line, that's your x-axis. Draw a vertical line, that's your y-axis. Draw some tick marks, on each side. Congratulations, you now have a graph. So, for those of you who choose to take the lazy way out, trust me, if you take the lazy way out with doing the work, I'm going to take the lazy way out with grading the work. And lazy is only one thing to me, that's marking it wrong. I don't care if you have the right answer too. I'm going to mark it wrong because you chose to be lazy. So, let's do the graph. Y equals 5, go to the y-axis, go to where positive 5 would be. We're done. Horizontal lines go from left to right. So you go from left to right. That's it, from the. Any questions, 5 or 6? Alright, so let me pause very quickly just to let anyone who needs to finish drawing those graphs, draw them. Those people who have already finished, let me highlight what's coming up next. So, I didn't want to use that color, but that's fine. Let me actually erase that, just in case you can't see it. Slope-intercept form, definitely need the formula. Definitely need what it means. There you go. So we're about to move on, about another 20 seconds. For those of you who still need to copy stuff down, you can always copy it down once we finish up. So again, right now, all you're doing is exactly what you would have done if you were in the school building, which is taking notes. All right, let's go on. For those of you who need to finish copying it, it'll be there once we finish up. So, slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M represents the slope, b represents the y-intercept. Slope, y-intercept. Now, as far as the steps go, how to graph it. So all of the steps, if you don't want to write them, don't write them. But those are the steps that you will use for graphing with slope-intercept form. Step 1, rewrite the equation into slope-intercept form. Today, we will not worry about rewriting. On Monday, we start rewriting. Monday, we start rewriting. Step 2, identify the slope and the y-intercept. Step 3, plot the y-intercept on the y-axis. Step 4, put additional points using the slope. That's what this box is for. So again, it's nothing new. Did it first semester. We're reviewing it because we're going to be using it a lot in the second semester. So let me get my highlight for example 7 and 8. So example 7, we're going to graph y equals negative 3x plus 2. So I'm going to put the formula right underneath it. Which number represents the slope? So x isn't a number, so you won't put that. And what's in front of that 3? Negative 3. What's the y-intercept? 2. So remember, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So we identified the slope in the y-intercept. Plot the y-intercept on the y-axis. So you go to the y-axis and put a dot on positive 2. Any questions before we continue? Okay, if you got a question, so you come off mute and ask, or type it in the chat and ask. Don't necessarily raise your hand because I may not necessarily be looking at the computer. So now we use the slope. So first thing, the slope was negative 3. If I want to change negative 3 to a fraction, what do I have to do? Put it over 1. You want the slope to be a fraction. You would prefer the slope to be a fraction. Negative 3 over 1. Is that positive or negative? It's negative. So if your slope is negative, there are 2 ways to draw it. Going down and to the right. So from your point, go down 3, down 1, 2, 3, to the right 1, put another point. And you keep going until you can't go anymore. So 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. Now we're going to go in the other direction. That's going up and to the left. So up 3, to the left 1. Up 3, to the left 1. I can't go up 3 anymore. I'll run out of space. And then you draw your line. That's it. I'm done. Again, I don't want you to do it to get it over with. I want you to do it so that it's mathematically correct. Because if you do it wrong, guess what? It'll make you do it over. You have time to do it right, or you have time to do it over. Pick one. Any questions? Example 7. one more example left. All right, so for example 8, let me give you a moment to start this problem. So take 2 minutes, start it. Let's do this. So example 8, we've got y equals 5 over 2x minus 7. So what's the slope? What's the slope for example 8? 5 over 2. What's the y-intercept? -7. Beautiful job. So again, I have a blank area. This is for those people who don't have graph paper. You don't get the excuse of not doing the graph. You're going to draw it yourself. So horizontal line for the x-axis, vertical line for the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's my graph. Your graph does not have to be cute. Mr. Lowe is not cute. If I got graded on how cute I was, I would never have gotten out of kindergarten. So I'm not grading it on how cute it is. What's the first number that goes on the graph? The slope or the y-intercept? Y-intercept goes on the graph first. So go to the y-axis and put your dot on -7. Now we do the slope. Is our slope positive or negative? Positive slope. So, since we have a positive slope, there are 2 ways to do it. First way, go up and to the right. So, go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the right 2. The point. Go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the right 2. For the point. Go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the right 2. For the point. You can also go down. Go ahead. You start at -7, then you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then to the right 1, 2. That's where you put your next point. Then you do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 1, 2. Put your next point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the right 2. Put your next point. You keep going until you run out of space. So, if the slope is positive, you can go up and to the right, or you can go down and to the left. But for this graph, I can't go down 5, I'll run out of space. So this line is going to be good enough the way it is. That line is good enough the way it is. Any questions, examples 7 or 8? speak now or keep your peace, unless you're coming in after school to get additional help.